No more Thomas Shelby cosplays. You want to dress up as Thomas Shelby? This is not a video for you. You want to dress up as Breaker from Shoutout and Bone? Also not a video for you. Get your fucking cosplay dress up party gear and go to a fucking cosplay convention. Not here. Yo, what's Gucci, guys? So today we're gonna be talking about INTJ stereotypes. To do this video I had to research some stereotypes, went on YouTube. YouTube did not disappoint. Saw some self-proclaimed INTJ, so I thought maybe I'm gonna see an actual INTJ talk about the stereotypes. I see this fucking guy, first 10 seconds, right? First 10 seconds. He starts winking at the camera, blowing kisses, and like saying, Taylor Swift hit me up. And I'm like, yeah. That's what we're dealing with. That's the impression of an INTJ, right? If you're vulnerable, fucking blowing kisses at the camera, slurping it off. It's sad how this type is idealized, and you really cannot understand it for what is a human type, and you will never understand it if you are in MBTI, because it's a cycle of stereotypes of mistyped people who are trying to be cool. So today we're gonna do an opposite of this, okay? No more Thomas Shelby cosplays. You want to dress up as Thomas Shelby? This is not a video for you. You want to dress up as Breaker from Shoutout and Bone? Also not a video for you. Get your fucking cosplay dress up party gear and go to a fucking cosplay convention. Not here. Common trope you see with INTJs, that INTJs are mastermind manipulators. For some reason, they're those people who are amazing at emotionally manipulating someone with a plan and a goal. That couldn't be further from the truth. They are literally FE vulnerable. That is their biggest problem. FE is their biggest problem. Knowing how to impact people's moods, how to affect them, and how to manipulate them, and how to express that's their biggest difficulty. Which is why, instead of being those suave emotional manipulators, they tend to be pretty blunt. They tend to be pretty dry. They tend to be pretty straightforward. Those are not people who are going to stop playing emotional games with you. In fact, those are the types of people who hate emotional games. Those are the type of people who think if you play that shit on them, they're weird manipulator. You're cringe. You are fucking cringe, and they'll make sure to stay away from you. There's a reason why we're saying autism. Like, how the fuck you go from autism to fucking being mastermind manipulator? Second stereotype would be organized planners. So here I'm gonna ask you guys one thing. Yes, it's a judging type you might see with the J letter, right? And you might ask, well, why they're organized? I'll ask you this. It is an NI dominant type. It's not a rational function. Okay, it's a perceiving function. Ask yourself, why would a type with a perceiving function and it's dominant, especially an intuitive function, be so focused on organizing, on being hyper-disciplined, on being a person who's always strategically planning everything rigorously, very rigid, narrow-minded? Why would that ever be? That's not the case with an NI dominant type, not at all. In fact, I'd say INTJs tend to be much more open. They tend to be much more fluid. They tend to be much more adaptable. I know. INTJ, what? Where did the J go? That's just bullshit, which is probably why many INTJs are going to confuse themselves for another type, mistype themselves because they're not those mastermind, planners and rigid individuals. They might even be kind of relaxed in that way. They might even have kind of attitude of going with the flow in many ways. So that doesn't contradict the type whatsoever. You did not just suddenly become an INTP, okay? So that's a second stereotype. And the third stereotype would be, I've heard it so many times, right? The most confident introvert, the Chadwick who somehow is in the gym all the time, SE inferior. So you see that, right? Like somehow an INTJ who's extremely assertive, even aggressive. Right? No issues with assertiveness. They're like ENTJs that way, just introverted, which is the biggest bullshit. And if you are genuinely typing yourself as an INTJ and you're fucking saying those things, you're jerking yourself off. Why don't you just take a mirror and stroke yourself off if that's what you're doing? Because this is cringe-inducing. This is cringe-inducing. Absolutely not. This is fantasy. This is absolute fantasy land. No, you're just not an INTJ. Type is something else, bro. Type is something fucking else. INTJs tend to be quite passive. They tend to struggle with engaging in the physical. They need help when it comes to being energized by people who are forceful, by people who are physical. They need the push from other people. So this is not an individual that's just going to excel in pushing on the external world. No. They tend to be much more inert. They tend to be much more passive individuals who just kind of go. They just kind of go, keep to themselves. They need help to develop that SE inferior, to get help from it, to receive help from it, and they're open to it. This is not some fucking tryhard who's gonna LARP. Oh, my C is so fucking big. They understand the issue with their SE, and they are absolutely willing to get help from it, from people who are very physical, from people who are very, go after what they want. They appreciate that and they learn from that. Make sure that they really live life. That's a big one. That they live life rather than watching life, observing from the sidelines as an observer. That's not what we want here. We want them to engage in real life. That's the goal for an INTJ. Fourth stereotype would be that they are emotionless. That's not true, right? There's no type that is emotionless. That's first of all. No, they're not sociopathic or just some weird thing. The reality is that they can seem very dry. They can seem quite very inexpressive even. There's just not much focus on, again, impacting the emotional atmosphere. They just don't know how to engage in it. There's a lot of struggle there and even insecurity in that department. They tend to be very emotional inside actually, despite that you don't see as much turbulence externally. Their internal world and their overall neuroticism internally can be very severe. On average, quite neurotic, so this is not super calm, detached, sociopathic type who's emotionless. No, just because you don't see that shit doesn't mean it's not that. Now, the fifth and last stereotype, it would be that they're, again, misanthropic people who hate others, who are heartless. Listen, if you are a misanthrope, you're genuinely simply that way because you got buffed and you got your fucking ass fondled by someone. That's literally what happened, right? Because no one develops hatred towards people. First of all, even why would you even think about that, or why would you even care about that? So for you to develop such feelings towards humans, I don't know how that works, but it's a usual case. It's a usual case of, again, either abuse or some kind of self-esteem issues, or feeling that you've been betrayed by society. Whatever it is, it's your own problem. This is not dependent on the type. INTJ has nothing to do with you being a misanthrope. You're just a fucking dickhead, You're just a dickhead, and you're a coper. So, but that's not because you're a fucking INTJ. Don't blame that label here. And you might get maybe an impression that they are kind of negative because they tend to be very picky with individuals. Maybe they can be even critical, but don't confuse that with I hate the world, I hate humans. Just live your life. Life's beautiful. Just live your life. Enjoy your life, and just live it. Stop overthinking. Stop thinking about these humans. Just live. Just live. Okay, so 5 main stereotypes. If you guys have any more, write down below. I'm gonna respond to them. Love you all, INTJs. Of course, I have INTJ friends. They're amazing, great people, extremely smart people, who have so much to offer. Okay, that's why I wanted to make this video. So we can kind of humanize them and not fall into this weird stereotyping and fetishizing them as those icons. But missing who they really are. That's bullshit. So INTJs are fucking awesome, but just don't cosplay as them. As simple as.